You wake up one morning and something feels different. The air is heavier, the light is sharper, your thoughts move slower, as if time itself has thickened. You go through your usual routine, brush your teeth, make coffee, check your phone, but something gnaws at you, a whisper in the back of your skull, a question. Not just any question, the question, the one you've been running from your entire life. You try to shake it off, but it clings like a shadow. It follows you to work, sits with you at lunch, hums in your ear as you scroll through the endless noise of the world. It waits, patient, unrelenting, because this isn't just a question, it's the question, the last one you'll ever need to ask, the one that unravels everything else. And the terrifying part, you already know it. You've always known it. You've just been too afraid to let it surface. The paradox of the unasked question. There is a strange law of human psychology. The most important truths are the ones we resist the hardest. We bury them under routines, distractions, ideologies, and addictions. We construct entire identities just to avoid facing them. Why? Because some questions don't just seek answers, they dissolve the one who asks them. Think of the last time you felt a deep, unsettling doubt about your life. Maybe it crept in during a quiet moment, when the distractions faded, and you were left alone with yourself. Maybe it hit you in the middle of a conversation, when you suddenly realized how much of what you say is just performance. Maybe it came in a dream, where the rules of your waking life didn't apply, and you saw yourself with terrifying clarity. That doubt was the question knocking, and every time you shut the door, you told yourself you were just tired. You picked up your phone, you drowned it out with someone else's thoughts. But here's the cruel twist. The more you ignore it, the louder it gets. The illusion of the pursuit. We spend our lives chasing answers. How can I be happy? What is my purpose? Why do I feel so empty? We read books, listen to gurus, follow philosophies, hop from one self-improvement trend to the next, always searching, never arriving. But what if the problem isn't that we lack answers? What if the problem is that we're asking the wrong question? Consider this. A man spends his life climbing a mountain, convinced the summit holds the meaning he seeks. He exhausts himself, sacrifices everything, and finally reaches the top, only to realize the real question wasn't what's at the top, but why was I climbing in the first place? We are all that man. We chase money, status, love, enlightenment, thinking fulfillment lies in the achievement, but the moment we get there, the hunger returns. The question remains, because we've been deceived, not by the world, but by our own mind. The one question that changes everything. So what is it? What is the question, the one that unravels the illusion? It's not what is the meaning of life. That's just another distraction. It's not who am I. Identity is a story, and stories can be rewritten. It's not even what do I truly want. Desire is a shapeshifter. The last question you'll ever need to ask is what am I refusing to see? Not see as in observe, see as in face, see as in accept. This question doesn't lead you to an answer, it leads you to the mirror, and in that mirror you don't find wisdom, enlightenment, or some grand revelation. You find what you've been running from, your lies, your compromises, the person you pretend to be, the life you've settled for, the truth you've buried alive, the choice you can't avoid. Now, the real horror begins, because once you ask this question, you can't unask it. Once you see, you can't unsee, and that's why most people never ask it. They would rather live in quiet desperation than face the abyss of their own awareness. But you're still here, which means on some level you're ready, not for an answer but for the reckoning. What comes next? This is where most turn back. This is where the mind panics, where the ego throws up walls, where the distractions suddenly seem more appealing than ever. But if you keep going, if you dare to look, you will discover something far worse than the truth. You will discover the reason you've been hiding from it. And that is where everything changes, the great avoidance. Every human life is built upon a foundation of unseen refusal. We refuse to see our own fragility. We refuse to acknowledge the parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable. We refuse to admit how little control we truly have. This is not an accident. It is not a personal failing. It is by design, the design of the human psyche itself. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the repressed, denied, and disowned aspects of our being. We bury these fragments in the unconscious, not because they are evil, but because they contradict the image we wish to uphold. The respectable citizen cannot admit his capacity for rage. The kind-hearted soul refuses to see her own cruelty. The successful entrepreneur dare not confront his deep-seated fear of worthlessness. And so we fracture ourselves. We become strangers in our own minds, haunted by what we refuse to name. The existential dilemma. But the shadow is only the beginning. Friedrich Nietzsche saw the deeper sickness, humanity's flight from reality. We invent religions, ideologies and moral systems, not to discover truth but to escape it, to shield ourselves from the unbearable weight of a universe without inherent meaning. Man cannot endure a meaningless life, he wrote. And so we lie. We tell ourselves that suffering has a purpose, that justice will prevail in the end, that love, or success, or enlightenment will fill the void. But these are illusions, beautiful, necessary illusions, that allow us to keep moving forward without collapsing onto the truth, that we are temporary, fragile, and utterly alone in our subjective experience. Jean-Paul Sartre called this bad faith, the act of lying to oneself to avoid the terrifying freedom of existence. We pretend we are bound by roles, rules, and destinies, because the alternative, accepting that we are condemned to be free, is too vertigo-inducing to face. The modern amplification. If the human mind has always been at war with itself, modern society has turned that war into a slaughter. Aldous Huxley warned us, we are no longer controlled through brute force, but through distraction, through endless noise, consumption, and the illusion of choice. The question, what am I refusing to see, is buried under an avalanche of notifications, curated identities, and manufactured desires. We are encouraged to find ourselves, but only within the narrow lanes of acceptable thought. We are told to speak our truth, but only if it aligns with the dominant narrative. We are promised freedom, but only the freedom to choose between pre-packaged versions of reality. The modern world does not suppress the question, it drowns it out. The core mechanism. Why is this so effective? Because of a fundamental flaw in human cognition. We do not see reality, we see our interpretation of it. Our brains are not truth-seeking machines, they are survival machines. They filter, distort, and fabricate to keep us functional, to keep us from spiraling into existential paralysis. Cognitive dissonance ensures we reject information that threatens our self-image. Confirmation bias leads us to only accept evidence that supports our existing belief. The mere exposure effect makes us prefer familiar lies over unfamiliar truths. We are not rational beings, we are rationalizing beings. And the greatest lie we rationalize, that we are awake when in truth we are sleepwalking through a dream we've mistaken for reality. The price of denial. But the truth does not disappear just because we ignore it. It festers, it leaks out in our addictions, our anxieties, our inexplicable rage at the world. It whispers in our nightmares, our intrusive thoughts, our sudden moments of dread in the middle of the day. Gabor Maté, the physician who studies addiction, puts it bluntly, we run from the truth not because we are weak, but because we are in pain. Every addiction, whether to substances, work, validation, or ideology, is an attempt to silence the question we refuse to ask. But the silence is temporary. The question always returns. The turning point. So where does this leave us? Trapped in a maze of our own making, chasing answers that only lead us deeper into delusion. Not quite. Because there is a way out. But it is not where we've been taught to look. The exit is not in finding an answer. It is in destroying the need for one. The silent war inside. You do not notice the prison until you try to leave it. The walls were always there, invisible, seamless, perfectly molded to the contours of your mind. You built them yourself, brick by brick without realizing it. Every time you swallowed a truth to keep the peace. Every time you nodded along when your gut screamed no. Every time you chose comfort over clarity. Now the prison is so familiar it feels like safety, but it is not safety. It is slow suffocation. And the worst part, you are both the prisoner and the warden. How the unseen shapes reality. The things we refuse to see do not vanish. They go underground into the body, into relationships, into the very fabric of how we experience life. Chronic fatigue that doctors can't explain. That's repressed rage crystallizing in your cells. The same relationship drama repeating with different people. That's your unconscious recreating childhood wounds to finally solve them. The inexplicable dread when life is actually going well. That's your psyche whispering. You're living a lie and your body knows it. Freud called this the return of the repressed. Jung saw it as the shadow demanding integration. Modern neuroscience confirms it. Suppressed emotions don't disappear, they metastasize. Your body keeps score, your relationships keep score, reality itself keeps score, and the bill always comes due. The social hallucination. Now zoom out. What happens when entire cultures are built on collective avoidance? We get a society where people trade their lives for pensions they might not live to. Collect progress means faster distractions rather than deeper wisdom. We medicate human suffering instead of examining its roots. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World wasn't a dystopian fantasy. It was an operations manual. The modern world doesn't need to ban books when endless entertainment does the job better. We voluntarily anesthetize ourselves with 24/7 news cycles that manufacture outrage, social media platforms that turn identity into performance, spiritual bypassing that repackages avoidance as good vibes. Only the most terrifying prison is the one where prisoners police each other's delusions. The neurological betrayal. Here's where it gets biologically sinister. Your brain rewards you for staying asleep. Every time you scroll past discomfort, numb yourself with substances or shopping, rationalize away cognitive dissonance. Your dopamine system says, good job, you survived another day without having to change. Meanwhile, the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, treats truth as a threat. Actual self-awareness triggers the same physiological response as physical danger. We are wired to prefer the familiar lie over the unfamiliar truth, the comfortable delusion over the painful awakening, the known misery over the unknown possibility. This isn't philosophy, this is evolutionary biology working against your liberation. The paradox of self-improvement. Now consider the cruelest irony of all. Most personal growth methods reinforce the problem. Positive affirmations, often just new lies to cover old ones. Law of attraction, frequently magical thinking to avoid real work. Good vibes only, spiritual bypassing in a flower crown. Even therapy can become another place to perform healing rather than actually heal. Because true transformation requires demolition first, and who wants to stand in the rubble of their own identity? The moment of recognition. But sometimes, usually when we're broken open by crisis, we catch a glimpse behind the curtain. Maybe it's the third failed relationship with the same toxic dynamic, the panic attack in the middle of your perfect life, the chilling realization that you've become what you once despised. In that moment you face a choice. Go back to sleep or walk through the fire. Most choose sleep, but you're still reading, which means part of you already knows there is no going back. The fork in the road. This is where paths diverge. One road leads deeper into the maze, more sophisticated distractions, more elaborate self-deceptions. The other leads, well, that's the terrifying part. No one can describe it for you. All the maps are lies. All the gurus are selling something. You'll have to walk it alone. The first lie you must stop telling. I will face this later. There is no later. There is only the eternal now. The present moment where every past avoidance compounds into future suffering. The great deception of the human mind is that awakening can be scheduled like a dentist appointment. But truth does not wait for convenience. The moment you say I'm not ready is the moment you must begin. The 3 prison guards, and how to disarm them. 1. The storyteller, your false narrative. Your mind spins tales to justify avoidance. I need to understand more before I act. A clever stall tactic. This is just how I am. The death sentence of growth. Others have it worse. The comparison trap. Rebellion tactic. Write your autobiography as your enemy would. Expose every self-flattering lie. Where do you play victim? Where do you take false credit? The truth hides in the gaps between your cherished stories. 2. The comfort addict. Your fear body. This isn't metaphorical. Your nervous system physically rebels against change. That pit in your stomach when confronting hard truths. That's not weakness, it's withdrawal from the drug of illusion. Rebellion tactic. Seek the shake. When your hands tremble, your breath shortens, and your chest tightens. Lean in. This is the sensation of false identities dissolving. What you call anxiety is actually metamorphosis. 3. The crowd. Their expectations. Every social circle has unspoken rules about what can be questioned. Family systems, workplaces. Even spiritual communities enforce their own versions of "don't ruin the mood." We don't talk about that. Who do you think you are? Rebellion tactic. Become selectively unreasonable. Identify one sacred cow in your life, the topic everyone tiptoes around, and poke it. Observe the backlash. That reaction shows you where your growth waits. The alchemy of radical honesty. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz by discovering this principle. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power. Most never find this space because they're too busy. Reacting, emotional hijacking, rationalizing, intellectual bypassing, numbing, physiological avoidance. The practice: when triggered, freeze. Don't react or retreat. Locate the physical sensation: tight throat, hot face. Ask, what am I refusing to feel right now? This 10-second pause is the atomic unit of rebellion. Do it consistently, and your entire psychology restructures. The Nietzschean reset. Nietzsche's formula for reinvention: become who you are requires first knowing what you're not. List every role you play: good employee, loyal friend, responsible parent. Ask of each, is this me or my armor? The roles you hesitate to release, those are your prisons. The shadow work shortcut. Carl Jung's method. Distilled: identify recurring negative patterns, failed relationships, self-sabotage. Trace them to their root emotional payoff. Example: chronic lateness often serves as rebellion against control. Ask, how is this pattern secretly serving me? What you call dysfunction is actually ingenious self-preservation, just operating in outdated mode. The attention audit. Your focus determines your reality. Track one day of what you say matters versus where your attention actually goes. The gap between these reveals your true priorities. Most live in quiet despair because their attention is held hostage by other people's emergencies. Artificial urgency, deadline notifications, comfortable distractions. The fix: 3 daily attention reclamations. When reaching for your phone, pause for 3 breaths. In conversations, notice when you're waiting to speak versus listening. Each hour, ask, is this focus nourishing or numbing? The ultimate test. There is one question that instantly reveals whether you're moving toward freedom or deeper into the maze. Am I doing this to avoid something? Apply it to relationships, career moves, spiritual practices. The answers will terrify you. That terror is the doorway, the illusion that shatters all others. There is a secret hidden in plain sight, so obvious you've overlooked it your entire life. It is this: you are not who you think you are, not your name, not your past, not your accomplishments or failures, not even the voice in your head that claims to be you. These are costumes, props in a play you didn't realize you were performing. And the moment this realization lands, truly lands, is the moment the prison walls dissolve. The grand deception of identity. From the moment you were born, you were handed scripts. This is your family. This is your nationality. This is your personality. These are your limits. You memorized your lines so well that you forgot you were acting. But here's the truth no one tells you. Identity is not discovered. It is constructed. And what can be constructed can be deconstructed. The 2 layers of the false self, the accumulated self. Every compliment you internalized, every insult you believed, every role you accepted to belong. This is the you built from outside in. A Frankenstein of other people's opinions. The narrative self. The story you tell about why you're this way, the justifications for staying small, the victimhood that feels so familiar. This is the you that mistakes the map for the territory. Both are illusions. The experiment that changes everything. Try this. Recall a core belief about yourself. I'm shy. I'm bad with money. I'm unlovable. Ask, when did I first decide this was true? What did I gain by believing it? Who would I be without this story? The trembling you feel, that's your false self dying, the death that feels like rebirth. All spiritual traditions speak of dying before death. Christianity's born again, Buddhism's ego death, alchemy's negrido. The blackening. This isn't metaphor, it's the visceral experience of watching everything you thought was you crumble, and discovering what remains. What remains when the false self falls away. Not some enlightened sage, not a blank void, something far more ordinary, and far more terrifying, pure possibility. The freedom to reinvent yourself daily, hold beliefs lightly, Act without the burden of who you're supposed to be. This is what the Zen masters called beginner's mind. Not as a spiritual ideal, but as raw, unfiltered reality. The final barrier. There is one last lie standing between you and liberation. This is too hard, but the truth, letting go of the false self, isn't difficult. It's unfamiliar. You've spent a lifetime building this prison. Of course, walking out feels strange. How to live in the unmasked state, the daily unmaking each morning. Ask, what can I stop pretending to be today? The choice point when conflicted. Ask, is this choice coming from fear or freedom? The reality check when suffering. Ask, what story am I believing that makes this hurt? This isn't enlightenment, it's disenchantment. Seeing through the spell of self. The last question revisited. Remember where we began. What am I refusing to see? Now you know the answer. Yourself, not your story, not your mask. The you that exists when all pretending stops. The invitation. This isn't an ending, it's a threshold. On the other side waits a life where every moment is a fresh creation. Every interaction is unburdened by performance. Every challenge is met with the lightness of knowing nothing about you is fixed. The gate is open. The chains were never locked. Walk out. Final note. If this resonated, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Truth grows when passed hand to hand.